On September 29th to the 30th in 1941, more than 33,000 Jews were murdered at the edge of Kiev, near the Babyn Yar ravine. What lessons can be learned from this tragic event, the part of the Jewish history? How can and should it be remembered by the people of Ukraine? Our next panel will explore this critical subject.
Thank you. So the panel that we're going to launch now is called Babyn Yar, Exploring the Past for the Better Future. And we have a really distinguished panel now with us. Alexander Kwasniewski, President of Poland in 1995-2005. Vitaly Klitschko, the Mayor of Kyiv, and Ilya Khrzhanovsky, Artistic Director of the Babyn Yar Holocaust Memorial Center. Thank you for taking part in this, and we expect, of course, a discussion which will leave no doubt about what is happening, why it is happening, and what is the importance of what you are all trying to do. When I read again and again the title of the discussion, Exploring the Past for the Better Future, I think that it is about also exploding the past that explodes within every one of us when we get to know the truth, the horrible truth about what has happened. When I read about the better future, I think that probably any future is better than what we have lived through, and better than this memory. Sometimes we shy away from the memory because it is so horrible, but some people say, and I agree with them, that you have to know it in all its depth in order to avoid a repetition or replication in the future. Also, when talking about exploring the past, we have to think about how to avoid exploiting the past. So this is what I invite you to speak on in your opening statements. Please try to keep to 5 minutes each. Why is it important? How to avoid mistakes in presenting what has happened, and why the project now has amassed some criticism aimed at it, at what you are going to do about this criticism. So, Mr. Kwasniewski, President Kwasniewski, please do start.
Answering your questions, I want to start with such famous Latin sentence, Historia magistra vitae. So the history is the teacher of life, and frankly speaking, that is true. But unfortunately, we are very, very bad pupils in this school. So we don't know the history, we ignore the history, we repeat the mistakes of the history, and so on. So in my opinion, our idea is extremely important because we want to say truth. I repeat again, truth about the history. Very tragic, very dramatic history of Holocaust on Ukrainian soil, organized by Nazis, which caused millions of victims. In Babyn Yar, it was many thousands of victims. And I think that is our first task, to repeat again what happened, and to show all these historical circumstances and everything what happened in this dramatic period. That is a task number one, to say truth, I underline again, truth about the history. Know our truth, know some gray elements of the truth, but the real truth, facts, and everything what means truth. The second point of our activity is commemorate these people, because that is something what is absolutely unacceptable. In many places of the world, especially in my country, in Poland, we have such places of death camps, concentration camps, Auschwitz-Birkenau, but we can name the victims, we can call the names of the victims, names and surnames. Here in Kiev, here in Ukraine, because of the actions of Einsatzgruppen, we cannot even call the names of these people. So I think our task, our very, very important goal is really to commemorate these people, to name all these victims by names, by surnames, places of birth, etc., etc. So I think this commemoration was a problem for Soviet Union for a very, very long time, for Ukraine as a Republic of Soviet Union as well. Today is a time to commemorate these people fully, as much as we can do it, as much as is technically possible. That is point number two. Point number three is education, because I think our center, Babyn Yar Center, will be very, very important educated center for young generation, for the people, but for everybody. We should have actions to show the history, but to speak about all what happened in the past. So education, that is something what we have to do, and I think that is very important goal of the center. Point number four, I think we are living in very difficult time. Me as a former president, I can tell you that it's not even difficult time, it's a crazy time. What we see in the world, what is connected with the political movements, but also with such dramas like COVID crisis, etc. That is, diplomatically speaking, difficult time. But in this difficult time, we have the real fear and the real problem with such increasing positions of the people using and expressing the ideas of racism, of xenophobia, of anti-Semitism, of populism, of nationalism. So we are in dangerous period of the history of the humankind. So I think for our center, that is the next very important step, that we will discuss all these issues, knowing the history, knowing this background, but speaking about all these dangers we have in front of us. And last point is point number 5 is reconciliation, because everything what we will discuss in Babyn Yar is a history. The history we can be repeated, unfortunately, but speaking about the history is necessary to knowing the history, knowing the truth, to be prepared to ask for reconciliation. And I think this reconciliation subject is very important to discuss the relations between Ukrainians and Jews, Germans and Ukrainians, Germans and Russians, Russians and Ukrainians, everybody. So I think reconciliation is a process, but it is something what can be extremely important pillar of better future, of something what we cannot, we didn't have in the past, but we can achieve in the future.
Thank you, President Kwasniewski. And now the question to Mayor Klitschko. You are heading the capital of Ukraine. You have heard what President Kwasniewski said about our historical memory. And on the one hand, the construction and launch of the memorial may become an achievement of yours, as you will probably head the city for another term, and who knows for how many terms later. On the other hand, you already have a point of contention about this museum. So as a mayor, where do you see the advantages and where do you see the disadvantages of having such a memorial on the territory of your city?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to talk, great to listen, everyone. Great to see everyone and participate Kyiv Jewish Forum. It's with very famous, very with many people who have big respect around the world, and from beginning, I am totally agree what I listened from President of Mr. Kwasniewski. Actually, it's not just city project. It's not just country project. it's worldwide project. If we're talking about Holocaust, from beginning from of this project, I was involved, and also I'm very happy to uh, work together with many people in to memorialize, to make real memorial in our hometown, but impact have not just city key. For me, as a former sportsman, I was really surprised. The Holocaust Memorial we have around the world. We have a lot of them in Poland. We have a lot of them in Germany, in Austria, in Jerusalem, in uh, United States. In Los Angeles, we have Holocaust Memorial, and the place where killed more than 100,000 people in Ukraine. We doesn't have the memorial, and definitely the nations which don't have memory of about past time doesn't have a future. It's very important to do never repeat the same mistakes what we everybody did in past time, and that's why I am as mayor of Kyiv see as mission to realize to implement this great idea to build the memorial of Babyn Yar. And it's not easy way. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of challenges what we have during in the way to realize this project. But anyway, I'm more than sure we have a great support around the world, and for many questions what we can receive from our uh, opponents who have total different vision to do this project open as possible, and to discuss about many issues in this project, and I'm more than sure we uh, have to do it this memorial. I want to remind the property of Babyn Yar belongs of municipality of our city, and totally full support from my side as mayor of Kyiv, as citizens of Ukraine. I see that as mission to realize this project, and in next couple of years, this will be a great event when we invite all representative, all directors from many memorials in the world, and our missions never do the same mistakes what did already in past time, and they bring the messages for new generation. It's very important. Mr. Krasnevsky told about one very important point. It's education. We actually begin in school of our city in Kiev, the lessons, Babyn Yar lessons. It's very important to explain the people, to explain the children, to show the history, uh, what exactly happens. And yes, of course, memorized the memory of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people who was killed in Babyn Yar. And that's why very happy to be involved in this. It's I guess it's a mission from every one of us to implement our vision in our hometown in Babyn Yar. Actually, nothing did in more than 70 years, but anyway, we have to do it in pretty soon. I guess in the next couple of years, I will be happy to be in the presentation to opening in Babyn Yar Memorial, what we're doing all together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mayor Klitschko. And now to Ilya Khrzhanovsky. Mr. Khrzhanovsky, Mayor Klitschko has mentioned that he hopes that representatives from many memorials around the world will come for the opening of the museum that you are now heading the creation of. And indeed, there are many museums and memorial centers for Holocaust around the world. What is or what is going to be the unique contribution of Babyn Yar Museum to historical knowledge and to the education of Ukrainian people and other people in general?
What is creative way? Of course, it's is the main question, and I will go to the details a bit later. But this creative way will help get attention and understanding from younger generation and people who is younger generation now. In few years, it's not younger generation anymore. We're doing something for the people in the future, and we need to find the way to tell the story, what the people will feel, what the people will feel, and what can change the life of the people who live now. The entire last decade in which direct survivors of the Holocaust are alive. And it's our duty, of course, is to tell the story and the story of them. And it's our duty to make sure the future generation will know what happened. And it's our duty to do it in a dignified way. Because just the facts, just the numbers, don't give us any emotional involvement, don't change us, because we have so much around us. For me, it's a very personal story in general, because my mother was born in Vinnytsia in 1940, and part of her family, my mother is Jewish, part of her family is from Vinnytsia, part is from small shtetl Shargorod. And a couple of days after the beginning of the war, my grandfather sent my mother, grandmother, and my uncle out of Vinnytsia to Uzbekistan. And of course, everybody knows what's happened with the Jews in Vinnytsia. And I know all the stories about, actually, our family stories. And I know this relation between Ukrainians and Jewish people in the shtetl after the war, when my mom back then spent many years, 15 there. I know all the stories of people who was killed and disappeared, and for me, it's have very intimate connection to this country and to things was happened in Holocaust time in Ukraine. And it's give me special, very personal respect and attention to the memory of all Holocaust survivors, children of these Holocaust survivors, and the families of the Holocaust survivors. And of course, to find the language from progressive language, which can be felt, what can be actually young generation and for the next generation, it's important. But at the same time, to find this border that it doesn't hurt anyone. And my goal is that the visit online museum for now, because we want to open online museum first, and we will do it very soon, and then actual museum. It's go through an emotional journey. History is all about facts, interpretation, knowledge. I want people who are exposed to the tragic story to experience another dimension, and this dimension is feelings. There's different elements, technological and others, in the museum, and people will experience story in many different ways. And contemporary technology gives ability to do it. That means for every person it will be personal journey. depend on his background, culture, age, personal attachment, language, and so on and so on and so on. The museum has to be relevant and appealing to audience for many years. We are building the museum in order to preserve the memory of the tragic events and the lessons learned from it for decades ahead. 50, 100 years from it's a very short time, because when we come into the museum we see sometimes picture and there's just end of 15th century, beginning of 16th century. 100 years is nothing, but at the same time it's a huge amount of time. And you have to be dynamic, sophisticated, and understand the nature of storytelling. My profession is storytelling, and my task is to find a way to tell the story in a way that it can be a story about people now, that they can feel that something have something to do with them. Change according to stories told about it, and we have to tell our story so it would stay forever, and at the same time to keep the dynamic system, to change technological language. Technology changing all the time, and technology is important because it's just give us variety of ways how we can tell the story, and it's relevant mediums to future generation, AI, 3D, and so on and so on and so on. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and the past has not shaped the present. It is also part of it, and we believe that the past cannot future, especially in a story about drinks, remembering it and telling it in the right way. It can prevent it from repeating itself, because we know from the human history the stories of genocide, they're repeating. And also this museum, I believe, will be among the last one being built in actual place where tragedy has happened. And the story of Eastern Europe Holocaust has not been told in an appropriate way until today. The faster we share the story, the faster we find a unique way that its story can touch everyone. Doesn't matter is it Jewish person, or it's Ukrainian person, or it's somebody who came from Africa or South America. Doesn't matter from where, because people should know if they're coming to Kiev, they should visit this place, because it's something about humanity, something about world, and something what they need go through to be more rich in a spiritual and a human way.
Thank you, Mr. Khrushchanovsky. You mentioned, you touched upon the role of emotion in telling the truth. How acute has this emotion to be? And isn't there a danger that emotions may be so vivid and the story told in such a vivid way that people will be scared not about what has happened, but about how the story is being told? And then they will say, no, I don't want to hear about this anymore. What's your take on this?
I told you that it's already possible, and in the near future it will be more and more option to do it, to find the way to tell, to create to shape the personal journey for everyone. I think some people is ready to hear the truth, and in the heart people not, because all of us is different. But if you have a fact, the fact itself is so hard that my task is in a way opposite. It's how you can have these terrible facts, how you can find a way to tell them, because emotion is not about fear. It's about compassion. It's about love. It's about feeling of destroyed and disappeared world. It's about feeling what other people, actually us, can do to what the people can do to each other, and it's not about what kind of terrible things you can see, because what kind of terrible things we can see every day on the TV screen, or what we can find in the internet, it doesn't touch us anymore. I think it's for me it's not about horror of something, and it's not about manipulation in a way that it's somebody trying to take a role playing what was in the press. It's not true. But emotions, when you can feel the relation to someone, because we cry and we laugh people if we have a connection with them. First, if we don't have a connection, we cannot feel anything. And of course, it's a terrible story, and the facts of terrible stories should be told. And then is the question: how? We don't have a visual, video, photo evidence of it. Almost nothing. We have some documents, we have some facts, but the main thing for me is to create and to find a way to tell the story of this tens and tens of thousands of people who was killed there and who lost till now the right to be remembered. And if you will feel them, and if you love them, and then you will see how they disappeared, I think it can work much stronger than any kind of horror moments what we can put there. And I don't think that this can work actually. It's the humanity and the world went to another phase.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khrzhanovsky. Now the question to Mayor Klitschko, and it's also about emotions to some extent, and also it's about what Mr. Khrzhanovsky has said. Everyone who will come to Kiev will have an urge to go to this place and pay their tribute and get to know about what has happened. How do you think are Kievans, the people in the city that you are heading now, ready to go there already and get to know the truth? And another very specific point, there's a underground station nearby, and some time ago there was a suggestion that it should be renamed and called Babyn Yar instead of Dorogozhichi. Some people said that this will enhance our collective memory about the tragedy, but the others would say that this will only put some people into depression or remind them of the tragedy unnecessarily. What's your opinion on this, please?
First of all, to remind the station, it can do it not just a mayor, it can do it just the community. We have some procedure which, first of all, a decision take the city council or deputy who is representative of community citizens who live in Kiev. And I'm more than sure we have to bring the memory. It's very important, and right now it's a discussion question. I bring to the city council the idea and ready to defend this idea and talk with the deputy, talk to the citizens, and explain how important that for our hometown. It's first point. And second point, we with Mr. Khrzhanovsky right now discuss about many points. Right now, it's discussion in our community and society, which kind of lessons we have. I told in my preview speech, it's two main important points. First of all, it's memory. Definitely, we have to memorize the people who died. The second one never happens again. It's have to be lessons for the next generation, to new generation, to explain what's going on exactly. To memorize, never do mistakes what did in the previous time, and it's a question how we bring these lessons, how we bring the information to the people. I'm sure with Mr. Krzyżanowski, it's have to be touched. Everyone, it's have to be emotional. It's not be one memorial. We have 100,000 of them around the world, but it have to be special lessons. Special lessons for every citizens and special lessons for every visitors in our hometown. And that's why it's technical part. We discuss about that. But anyway, we find a way, and definitely we present to society the ideas how we do that. Yes, and it's very important. Every citizens of Kiev, Ukrainian citizens, everyone have to be participate in this project. Is a project not from Klitschko, Krzyżanowski, Lesniewski, or some people who do it. This project. It's a project of our town and this project of our country to memorize this strategy. It's how important that I don't need to explain. I already tell about it.
Thank you, Mayor Klitschko. Now to President Kwasniewski. Looking at what is happening now in Ukraine around the construction of the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Babyn Yar, can you draw any parallels with what was happening in Poland in terms of coming to terms with your history and other? I know that you will say, I'm not the one to advise to Ukraine, to give advice to Ukrainians, but you're one of the foreign leaders that really know about Ukraine. Any parallels, anything that we can draw our lessons from concerning Polish experience?
Well, I'm against to find such easy similarities or parallel situation, but we can find a lot of common points. You know, the Jewish community in Poland was very strong and influential from almost 1,000 years. The same we had in Ukraine, especially when historically when the western part of today's Ukraine was a part of Polish state. But generally speaking, here we can find a lot of common elements. The same Holocaust. The Germans, the Nazis, the organized Holocaust in our country because here was the biggest Jewish community in the world. Please understand that before World War II, Jewish community on former Polish territories was bigger as in the United States. It was 3.5 million people. And Germans decided, the Nazis decided to kill them, to organize such very, let's say, well-organized extermination. So this is the next reason why we have to commemorate these people. Third point, what I mentioned before, the problem with Babyn Yar and with Ukraine is that all this crime was organized by ISIS group and it was mass murders, and it's very difficult to find the names, to call the names of the victims. And one of our main tasks and the task of this center is to try to do it, to commemorate these people by names. But then I think of course, in Poland we had a discussion what to do. I think the discussion was also, I think, I expect that in Ukraine we'll have more or less the same. Is a question how to understand and how to accept that we were very good during the war, we were fighting against Nazis, but we have also such a black part of our history. Then some people in our nations supported Nazis, especially in Holocaust. And that is very dramatic, that is very sensitive, and that is very painful question. I remember discussion in Poland about the massacre in Jedwabne, what was done by Polish neighbors against Jews who were Polish citizens as well. It was very painful discussion, but I think at the end of the day, this discussion was very positive. They played important role to understand that in the history of the nation, you have a good elements and bad elements. You have a heroic places, heroic chapters, and very negative chapters as well. So I think Ukraine still is in front of such a discussion, but this discussion is very useful. Is painful but useful because we can understand ourselves much better. But I think the history is only the part of this project. The real task for our center is education, is reconciliation, and is creation, is activities, engagement to fight against all these negative processes which we can observe in many places of the world, including Ukraine, including Poland. So I think if we'll finally we'll do it, because still we are speaking about the project. And I expect very much that one day we'll speak about the real center of Babyn Yar. So I think it will play extremely important role. And final point, we don't propose in these centers some special scare, some special phrase about phrase about the future. I think if some who is coming to Auschwitz in Poland, where we have a huge museum, of course everybody is shocked. I've been there many times with my international partners. Everybody was shocked. But that's a shock which is very positive, because we should understand that this situation can happen. We are not immune for such bad things, for such tragic situations. So I think this lesson, the lesson of Holocaust, the lesson of Auschwitz, the lesson of Babyn Yar, will be shocking, but extremely useful to say nevermore.
Thank you very much. The only thing that I would change in what you have said is replace but with and. Will be shocking and very useful. Yes, President Kwasniewski. The question to Mr. Khrzhanovsky. President Kwasniewski mentioned a broad public discussion here. How satisfied are you with the discussion that evolves in Ukraine now concerning your project? And are you going to take some of the criticism into account? In which spheres, or you will stand firm as you are planning?
I think it's the fact that discussion is to be so hard and so hot from someone. I think it's showing that this project is really important in this country and really important for the world. And it is not just about past, but it's really about, because it's touch present of the past. The discussion itself was very speculative. So it was a lot of there, and I gave a lot of comments about that already. I think discussion itself about the way how we can talk about the past, about the new forms and new language, and about the fact that the language appearing to such a complicated and delicate sphere like because the time is changing. The fact that discussion is start is very important, and it's great because it's possibility to discuss it, and from first moment I always declare, and supervisory board declared the same when we restart the project from with the creative phase, where I start to work on the project. The main thing is to be open, and actually we start around New Year, and then in like 2 months was coronavirus, and then everything started to change shape in reality. But at the same time, I'm in a way, I think it's great that this conversation exists, because now it's more people involved to discuss it, because I think it's important for everyone who live in Ukraine. Because it's not just about amount of Jewish people who was killed by the Nazis. It's about humanity. It's about things which happen in this country, and things which known around the world. Because Babyn Yar is what everyone know in all countries around the world, and we want to have this discussion more and more. And from the middle of September, we will start our online platform where everyone can give a response to things what we are doing, where you can see all the projects, and we start now already a lot of projects which helping us to shape the concept, the general concept of the museum, which will be presented by the end of this year. And this project involving a lot of people, and I think the discussion will be just bigger and bigger, and it will help for the project a lot.
And my last question to you, Mr. Khrzhanovsky, is the museum is planned to open in 2026. The artistic concept, as far as I know, is yet to be approved, but you chose to launch some programs this coming September. Why? Is it because you want to gradually prepare people for what they will see in the museum proper, or is it because you just want to start as soon as possible?
I think it's both, and in fact, we did a lot of things and already did some discoveries. Some of them scientific discoveries. For example, we find precise points where photos of Babyn Yar tragedy was done, precise points through 3D modeling, and now we do some models and monoculars, and a place where people can see how the landscape changed from one hand, and from other hand, what's actually happened here, to keep people to remember. We're doing a huge sound installation in Babyn Yar, where people can hear different prayers, Jewish prayers, and also other prayers, where can all the names of the victims who was killed there, and the names who we already know, and we're finding more and more names. We will hear the music from that time and the sounds of that time, because it's also a story of the world which was killed, this Jewish world. And we're doing a lot of projects where we involved people, also Kiev citizens. We do huge interview project where tens of thousands of people involved, and we're talking to them not only about Holocaust, but also about belief, about fear, about hope, about love, about like basic and most important human things. And we have unique project with a great Ukrainian filmmaker, Sergei Loznitsa, where we're trying to find and the shape, the context where the Babyn Yar happened, how it's happened, where we have unique footage and unique chronic documents, which was also, some of them was never published, and so on and so on. So we have a lot of products and projects what we already want to share, and we want to get a response from people, and we want to start a dialogue, and we want in fact to start an open online museum and to make it possible all the people around the world to react and to see what we are doing, even before the main physical building will be open. Now we are also working of architectural concept and how it can work together with the general concept of architecture and museum design, and the general concept of the same body, and landscape design the same body. We have now the great international architectural architects and critics who is helping us through the workshops to also to find the best possible form for it. But we're already there. We're doing things. A lot of people working on the project. We have two scientific institutes inside our center, and we want to share the things because we actually start. And I'm sure at 26 the museum will be definitely open.
Thank you very much for sharing this emotional experience with us. And I would like to draw the closing remarks from our participants, but I think that I'll ask a specific question and you may reformulate it into your closing remarks. President Kwasniewski, 2026, the opening ceremony, you will probably cut the band or do some other ceremonious function. But why will you probably go to this museum as a rank and file visitor?
It would be great to open this museum 2026, maybe earlier. I would be satisfied and I would be proud. And I think we can offer to the people, not only in Ukraine, but in Europe, in the world, something very unique. Unique because of this tragic reason of the museum, the Holocaust, this tragedy of thousands of Ukrainian Jews. Secondly, we can offer this very well-organized exhibition, which should be the lesson for the future. We can offer very good architecture, which will be the part of the richness of Kiev city. And we can offer also some place of the meetings, of conferences, where we will think and speak and discuss and act what to do for the better future, especially how to overcome these fears, these negative processes or things like racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, etc. So I think this Babyn Yar Center should be the place which will promote the most important values of humanity, which we know very well, but sometimes we are not enough strong to protect these values.
Thank you very much, President Kwasniewski. Mayor Klitschko, the same question goes to you. Why would you go to this museum as a rank and file visitor? The more so that by 2026, who knows who will be the mayor of Kiev?
It's not important who will be mayor of Kiev. It's not important who will be open by their memorial. I never think about that. It's right now a lot of speculation about the things somebody have to privatize this idea. Somebody have to privatize the Babyn Yar and the concept. It's our main priority to do it this project. Transparent is possible. To do it open is possible. To participate, all people have to be in the project of Kiev citizens, Ukrainian citizens, world citizens. It's the main idea what we have to deliver to the people. Never happens again. If someone who opened the museum Babyn Yar, I have a good idea, definitely. Right now, it's not have to be some politician. It's not have to be some person. It have to be people for who we did that. Children, small children. We know it's many children killed in Babyn Yar because they was Jewish, they was wrong nationality. We can talk about that. Definitely, right now a lot of questions. We have to do it. This project as transparent as possible, and also it's very important. Will be a lot of criticism. We have to take this criticism as advice. As mayor of Kiev, I told you, if you don't do it, everybody criticizes you. If you do something, everybody criticizes you. But anyway, we need to develop concept which touched every visitors. It's very important. We do that. Some people agree, it's not agree, but we have to present, we have to explain this idea, and I'm more than sure we implement this project. I give my best to implement this project as soon as possible. It's not important who will be the mayor, me or another person. It's very important to do that in our hometown. It's the main priority for me and main priority for everyone who participates to realize this project. Is it? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Khrzhanovsky, when in 2026 I go to the museum, is there any chance that in some of the halls, at some of the exhibitions, I will see the artistic director who went there to experience what the visitors are experiencing?
This question is probably it's in a bit higher level because nobody know what will happen in 2026 inside the hall. But I'm sure that the museum will be built. I definitely will do everything to make it unique. I want to remind you that, for example, Eiffel Tower, which is an icon and a visit card of Paris now, have a huge amount of criticism and negative reaction, and many other things. What is usual for us now, when they start and when it was unusual, they generate a lot of reaction, a lot of discussion. I think it's a good thing. I believe and I'm sure that this museum and this place will be also visit card of Kiev and of Ukraine worldwide. And I believe that it will give to people possibility to feel something important for them. And if it's very simple. If the audience, if the millions of people will come there and will want to come, that means that we did something in the right way. And I'm sure that it will happen. And that why I'm sure that I will create the experience. Doesn't matter you will see me inside or not, but I will create experience for you as a visitor that you will keep your memory in your soul forever for the rest of your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, not only for being so candid during this discussion, but also for painting a perspective that I will try to experience myself. And I address not only Ilya Khrzhanovsky, but also Vitaly Klitschko and Alexander Kwasniewski. Let's not hope, let us know that you will succeed in doing this. Thank you. This was the discussion Babyn Yar, exploring the past for the better future.